In addition, capital gains and dividends that VCTs distribute are free of tax, which is why VCTs tend to target paying a high dividend yield. EIS and SEIS involves investing into individual companies that have qualified for raising money through these schemes. EIS is focused on more established businesses, while seed EIS is for early stage, high-risk startups, which is also why they offer higher tax incentives. Because you need to research these companies yourself, make a lot of investments to get diversification, and the fact that you may have to wait years, if not decades, until you have an opportunity to sell your shares, I think these types of investments are only suitable for people that want to get actively involved in angel investing and are comfortable that most of these investments will fail. On the other hand, VCTs that give instant diversification to more established businesses can be suitable for a much wider array of people. I've only briefly touched on the pros and cons of these schemes, but given that this is a very high risk area of investing, you should definitely seek financial advice before getting stuck into this. Because of the risks, many people will want to bypass this tier entirely and move straight onto the final tier, where we have offshore bonds, family investment companies, and discretionary trusts. These are complex and very hard to unwind if you get them wrong, so you will definitely need professional advice before getting into these. But I want to help you understand when they can be useful so you know when to get in touch. Again, all of these are just wrappers. You can invest in pretty much whatever you want once the money is inside them. But because of the setup costs, you typically only use one of these if you were looking to invest at least £100,000. Although an offshore bond sounds like some elaborate tax evasion scheme, these are actually very standard financial planning tools. Although technically an insurance policy, an offshore bond is essentially an offshore investment account, typically situated in either Ireland, the Isle of Man, or Luxembourg. Their key advantage is that money invested within the bond grows free of capital gains or income tax, but you may have to pay income tax on the growth of the bond when you cash it in. You can draw down 5% of what you originally invested into the bond each year without triggering any tax charges. This is a cumulative allowance, so if you don't use it one year, you could draw 10% the next, and so on. If you do decide to cash in more than this, any growth in the bond's value will count as taxable savings income. In the UK, you pay much higher rates of tax on savings income than you do on dividends or capital gains. But because you have control of when you draw this down, you can do it in years when you have little to no income, or perhaps when you've moved abroad to a lower tax jurisdiction. You can also gift parts of your bond to family members, with tax only being paid when they cash it in and paid at their own marginal rate of tax. There are other tax considerations that are beyond the scope of this video, but in summary, offshore bonds can be very tax-efficient ways to build wealth and pass it on to future generations. Family investment companies and trusts are less about tax efficiency and more about passing assets to future generations whilst retaining control.